The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello everyone, welcome to yet another edition of our LaunchPad series. Lots of exciting news for you this week. There's a lot that's been happening in the internet marketing circle, so we definitely have a good power pack webinar for all of you that have signed on. Lots of good information out there. So as you can sense, if you were participating in our LaunchPad webinar editions for the first couple of them when we started off the year, it was kind of like a little bit of a hibernation mode. I guess all the internet marketers were taking a little bit of a vacation, so we didn't necessarily had a lot of news. And that of course is over, and there's a lot of news that's come about in the past week or so. So in this Launchpad edition, we'd be covering all of that news that's really important for us, that we should be sharing with our prospects and our clients. And I'd like to welcome Armando back. Armando's back, and he's got a very interesting slide for us with regards to some sales tips. So Armando's going to be sharing that with us. Morning, Armando.
Good morning, Manish. Good morning, everyone. Great to be back and in the LaunchPad webinars, and we look forward to a great year of learning.
Excellent, excellent. Great. So for all those that are, I guess every one of you is familiar with the process that we follow, the format that we have for our webinars. So we'll start off with the latest news and articles that are making news in the internet marketing industry for the week. And then after that, we'd be showcasing a tool of the week. So I have, again, a really exciting a tool this week that we'd be reviewing with you, and it's actually to do with user experience. So I'm sure at some point in time, all the ICs have come across web development as one of the services that they're basically pitching out there. And the 5-second test tool, I actually gave out the tool. Stick around. But the tool actually allows us to get a real-time feedback on user experience with any sort of design that we're putting together. So it's a very cool tool, and I wanted to kind of give you a demo of it so you can get a good understanding of that tool. And then, of course, as I mentioned, Armando's got a pretty exciting slide where he's going to be covering some sales tips for the week. Nothing like some good sales for 2014 to start it off. And at this note, I'd also like to add the fact that we have a couple of slots that are available for our lead generation in North America, that is in US and Canada, that we're currently doing. Leads are generated via email marketing. We're getting fantastic feedback on these leads. And there's a couple of slots that are available for lead generation. So if you do have any requirements for lead generation, you're based out of US and Canada, we can generate leads for you of prospects that are looking for SEO, PPC web development services. So please get in touch with either Armando or myself, and we can get you set up with a lead generation package. And leads are going to be generated specifically in your city and your territory. Excellent. So I just wanted to mention that there. And then we'll finish off our webinar with our usual Q&A session. Okay, so let's get started here. So the first news item that I wanted to share with everybody was the search share for Google, Yahoo, and Bing. So ComScore released the December numbers, and what we're seeing is that two search engines have strengthened their share. So no surprise, Google's actually gotten stronger. They were around 66.7% as far as November was concerned with their search share, percentage of search share in the US. And that's gone up to 67.3. So they actually bumped up their search share by 0.6%, solidifying themselves in the US. Very strong performance by them, in spite of Bing doing really well. And Bing basically finished off 2013 with an all-time high in the US market share. Bing finished off with 18.2%. And the highest they ever were was around 18.1, which is in November of 2013. And then in December 2013, their market share actually went up to 18.2%. So a fantastic performance by Bing. And here's where I'd like to make a point. If you do have clients that have enough budgets so that they can capitalize on both Google and Bing, it's highly advisable to have a diversified marketing strategy where you're taking into account Google as well as Bing, especially when you're doing PPC advertising, because what people don't understand and realize is the fact that there's a lot of hidden opportunities within Bing, because Bing is not necessarily as competitive as as Google as far as the PPC bids are concerned. So it's quite it's kind of interesting to look at the search share as far as Bing is concerned. Sorry, having a technical challenge here. Let me just check. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, my bad. I had not, my screen was paused. Great. Thanks, Armando. Thanks for bringing it to my attention. So that's the search share for 2013. Once again, to reiterate, Google was 66.7 in November, and they went December to 67.3. Microsoft was 18.1. They actually went to 18.2 as far as their search share was concerned. Yahoo's been declining, and that's kind of not a good sign, but I guess they're probably going a different direction with their content strategy and their new CEO, Marissa Mayer, at the helm. They dropped their search share from 11.2 to 10.8%. So Microsoft basically has been taking search share away from Yahoo, not so much so from Google, because Google has been solidifying themselves. Now, with my comment that I made on diversifying your marketing strategy to incorporate Google and Bing when it comes to like PPC campaigns as such, I'd also like to add the fact that based on our advertising dollars that we've spent, with yeah, there we go. So based on our experience over the past 10 years that we've spent advertising dollars on Google and on Bing, we can tell you that the highest conversions take place with Google. So that's the highest converting search engine. The most quality prospects are found in Google. So it's very important to maximize your spend first in Google and then diversify over to Bing, because Google's really where the high quality prospects are as far as conversions and sales are concerned. So it's very important to maximize that, and then if you still have funds remaining, is to diversify into sites like Bing. Great. So moving on to our next news of the week. So for all those that are actively involved with Yelp, I'm sure all of the ICs that are doing local marketing, Yelp's a pretty important aspect for your local optimization, getting a nice optimized Yelp listing out there, and then you're showcasing reviews in your Yelp profile so as to strengthen your profile, give it a lot of credibility, and then of course send in consumers and referrals through your Yelp profiles and listing. So a Yelp CEO took out an official notification last week saying that they were conducting a lot of sting operations because people were flooding the Yelp accounts with a lot of fake reviews. They were buying reviews at Yelp. So there was a lot of issues that Yelp was facing, and they were actually facing a credibility issue because people could not trust the ratings that there were as far as the Yelp listings were concerned. And you have to understand that Yelp's business primarily relies on accurate ratings. That's really what puts them where they are, and people feel more comfortable when they spend money on Yelp. So when there was this whole issue, and they had a really bad rep as far as PR was concerned about 4 or 5 months back, when a company did a big sort of like an expose, and they showed the amount of fake reviews that were there on Yelp and the different services that were out there that you could basically buy Yelp reviews, like pay $5 and somebody's actually going to put out a review in Yelp and put it up in your profile. So Yelp started doing a lot of sting operations, and about 3 months back in November, October, we covered in one of our LaunchPad webinars where they had blacklisted 10 companies. They were all over the U.S., some based out of Florida, some based out of New York, that were aggressively buying and soliciting listings and paying for reviews and paying for reviews. And they were basically penalized, they were blacklisted, they were publicly humiliated essentially, their profiles were blacklisted, and Yelp CEO had put out information that they'd be doing a lot more sting operations. So now that's been continuing, and if you have been impacted, the way to find out is that Yelp's aggressively putting out these consumer alert pop-ups on your profile. So if you log into your profile, you might see a consumer alert of this nature where the pop-up simply says that we've caught someone red-handed trying to buy reviews for this business. We weren't fooled, but wanted you to know because buying reviews not only hurts consumers, but also honest businesses who play by the rules. Check out the evidence here. So you can actually click on the evidence, and they'll show you how they've basically done a sting operation and how they've seen you in your profile aggressively engaging in buying reviews for Yelp. And so the messaging might change, but it's essentially a consumer alert like this that would be associated with your Yelp profile if they see that you're actively engaged in buying listings, etc. So let's be very careful with what we do as far as consumer reviews are concerned. Let's again go the genuine route of engaging genuine customers for our businesses that are extremely happy with our clients that want to give out genuine reviews to Yelp. Let's not really engage in nefarious tactics and try and buy Yelp reviews. Doesn't pay in the long run, and they're cracking down on that. So they got pretty aggressive, and this was big news because they are sending out a lot more consumer alerts on a regular basis going forward. And the sting operation is something that the CEO did mention is going to be continuing on an ongoing fashion. It's not going to stop anytime soon. Great. Okay, moving on. So the other big news for the week was Matt Cutts. So Matt Cutts back in the news. He's obviously been pretty aggressive over the last couple of months, putting out a lot of information as far as SEO and the way SEO is being done and link building is concerned, and the link building practices, etc., etc. And I think Matt Cutts basically reached to a point where he was like, look, if you're doing guest blogging and if you're not doing it the correct way, then don't do it because it's become spammy. And part is frustration, part is the fact that they need to clean up their algorithms and they want to make sure that they getting out good results out there. The top 10 results are relevant for the users. But the bottom line is that he was just kind of frustrated. He's seen a lot of spam take place with guest blogging, guest blogs just getting hammered with links. So basically what he said is that in 2014, if you're looking at guest blogging as a link building tactic, then unless you're doing really high level guest blogging, like you're attracting the likes of, let's say, a 30 or a 40 domain authority rank and up sites, and DA's domain authority, that's the SEO Moz rating that's given to a website. If you're looking at 40 and up, I mean, those are good sites to do guest blogging with. But if you're just going out there and getting these guest blogging links from low quality sites that are a bunch of that are primarily set up for guest blogging, then you're in for it because Google's going to go after this, and there's no point of doing guest blogging. His official post, let's take a look at that. So this is the official post that he's put out there, the decay and fall of guest blogging for SEO. So for all the ICs who want to actually read up extensively and in detail, you can get full information on guest blogging right over here. He talks about a spam email that he'd received for guest blogging, and this is a sample email that he'd received. He's put that up there, and then he had a series of videos, which again would suggest that all the internet marketers are involved aggressively with link building. Take a look at these videos, and he really talks about extensively about guest blogging, what kind of guest blogging is good, what's guest blogging not good for. And the bottom line is that what he said is that, look, continue doing guest blogging, it's not an issue, but if your priorities like exposure, branding, you want to engage with the community, you want to have an increased reach, those are the ideas that you do guest blogging for. But if you're doing guest blogging primarily for link building, that's not such a good idea because they're going to go after low quality sites and penalize a lot of these guest blogging networks. And the comment I'd like to make over here is that we were under a lot of pressure, I'd say probably the middle of last year, like June, July onwards, to incorporate guest blogging as a link building methodology in our processes internally at WSI ALM, because we saw everybody doing guest blogging so aggressively, and we also saw some suppliers, etc., getting results pretty quickly as far as guest blogging was concerned. But the bottom line was that all these links that were being generated from these low-quality guest blogging networks that we didn't really see a lot of relevance for. And that was something that we did not necessarily engage in as far as our SEO programs is concerned, and not something that we even encouraged, because there's no point putting out a guest blog on a relatively unknown site where you're not only putting your potentially your client's brand at risk, because you're putting his name out there and you're putting out a blog post out there, you're also associating them with something that's not primarily that high quality. And once a blog is put out there, God knows what's going to happen to that. And I mean, over the course of like 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 months, you're not really tracking the comments. You can definitely turn off comments, but then that beats the whole purpose of having a guest blog in the first place. So we've tried to stay away from this tactic, and I'm glad that we did, because unless you're doing a really high-value guest blog or pursuing a high-value guest blog opportunity, there's no point doing guest blogging in a sort of like a low-quality, low-level sense. So that was Matt Cutz's official opinion. Caused quite a discussion in the industry. There's a lot of talk about this. There's a lot of industry blogs talking about it. So definitely interesting to see the community's perspective on this. Great. So moving on. So this is an interesting example of a huge company that has lost their search visibility in Google because of unnatural links. And again, this is a great case study to utilize for your prospects, especially prospects and even your clients for that matter, that you're engaging with right now, because this shows you that if SEO is not done correctly, and if you do take shortcuts in terms of getting results, and if somebody's pressuring your client or promising them results that are like hugely out of scale and cannot be achieved in a given time frame, then this is the example that you put in front of them. Because if somebody tells your prospects or your clients that, hey, I'm going to get you results in 3 months or 4 months, I have this secret methodology, I have this high-powered network of sites that I can generate links from, and that's our proprietary sites. Whenever you hear stuff like that, when it's fishy, when it smells fishy, it probably is. And this is a perfect example of what's happened. A huge brand, the likes of an Expedia, had recently lost a lot of their traffic. So if you look at this graph over here, the traffic graph, so you're looking at October all the way to December. So if you compare the data stats from October to December, you can basically see that their traffic essentially dropped massively around the 24th, the 25th of December. Now, some people can argue that this is seasonal, but then we're going to show you the next slide as well. And the next slide is to do with keyword rankings. So let's take a look at the keyword rankings a little bit better. So as you can see, like flights, they were position 3, they've gone down 2. Hotels, they were 29, they've lost 27 spots, which means they were position 2 for this keyword. Airline tickets, they've gone down to 14, and that's down by 12. That means they were position 2 for this keyword previously. All-inclusive resorts, they've gone down to 3, so they've gone down 2 positions. Vacation packages, they've gone down 11 positions. So as you can see, down 11, down 9, down 23, down 2, down 96, down 5, down 3, down 3, down 8, down 12, down 19. So all across the board for their main top keywords, and you can imagine keywords like flights and hotels, I mean, how important they are and the kind of traffic that they drive on a day-to-day basis. So dropping for a keyword like hotels from position 2 to 29, that's a pretty massive impact. And you can see the amount of the traffic, the impact that's basically taking place for a company like the likes of an Expedia. And there were primarily a couple of reasons why Google served them with a penalty. There was an expose done on Expedia where a company actually did a full sort of like a posting on how they showed Expedia buying their way to the top. And what was exposed was the fact that Expedia was buying a high number of links from blogs and sites all across the internet, and they were buying them, and they were keyword rich, so they had the right anchor text, and they were basically linking it back to their website. So the blog went on to expose the fact that Expedia was participating in paid linking schemes in order to get manipulate the search rankings and get high results for themselves. This blog ballooned up into a big controversy, spread all across the internet circles, and then it was picked up by a huge, very popular hacking website, and they also popularized this blog further, gave it a lot of fuel, put it out there in their network, and of course, I'm sure that caught Google's attention. And they obviously took a manual review of Expedia and their link building practices, and they definitely did find evidence of the fact that Expedia was buying links in order to impact their search rankings, and thereby got penalized. So this penalty came in around December and January, and this report was run on the 19th of January to check their rankings, and they've dropped massively. Again, play by the rules, especially if you're a big brand, because there's a lot of people, a lot of internet marketers out there that'll try and put you down by just doing these, this backlink analysis on your website and then putting it out there. And as a matter of fact, we had put out a link again a couple of webinars back, or three or four webinars back, where you could actually report a site directly to Google if you felt that the site wasn't ranking well. Technically, it's meant for you. Like, it's your own site, and you feel that you should be ranking better. Why aren't you ranking better? So you could actually initiate a manual review for your website by submitting your site across to Matt Cutts. He'd made that request directly himself. So you got to be careful nowadays. You just have to play by the rules, be very careful, and this is great information to put forward to your prospects and your clients, because you need to essentially assure them that you're in safe hands. Because if the work isn't done correctly or properly, and whoever has done Expedia's work, if it's an internal team, an external team, they haven't really confirmed that right now, but they're in a lot of trouble now because they've essentially been exposed, and their traffic and Google's given them a penalty. So you got to be careful with what you're doing out there, because again, you can fool Google for a small amount of time, but eventually they're gonna get to you. The other news which was kind of interesting. So Danny Sullivan from Search Engine Land reported this about a week or so back, or 10 days back, where he reported the fact that thousands of hotel listings were hijacked in Google Plus Local. So basically what happened was that there was this company, which is this company at the bottom, roomstobook.info, took over, hacked into Google Plus Local pages of a lot of hotel listings. Like, there's thousands of hotel listings that were impacted. So let's say if I was the Courtyard LA Sherman Oaks, right, and I was logged into my Google Plus profile, so somebody actually hacked into my account and changed the official link to my website. So instead of it being Courtyard Marriott, .com or whatever Courtyard Marriott's official website is for LA Sherman Oaks, they replaced that link with this affiliate link, which is roomstobook.info, so that all their links and traffic was being redirected. Instead of going directly to the hotel website where you could do your booking, it was actually going to this affiliate site, roomstobook.info, and then you could basically book a hotel from there instead of booking a hotel directly at the Courtyard LA Sherman Oaks. And this wasn't the only hotel plus listing that was impacted. There was like thousands, as Danny Sullivan mentioned. So the aftermath of this whole incident, once Danny reported it, was that Google basically got involved, because Danny had written a pretty extensive post about it. Google got involved. They penalized roomstobook.info, got them totally out of their system, got them totally out of their listings. There were 3 other affiliate sites that were involved, but all apparently pointing back to the same company that was doing this. And Danny Sullivan even reached out to this company, roomstobook.info, but he never got an official response. Then he reached to this guy through his LinkedIn account and his LinkedIn profile in order to inquire about how this took place. And then he got an official response from the CEO of that company saying that, they just kind of played innocent. They said, look, we don't know who's done this. We have no idea how this has happened. We've reported it to Google ourselves, and we just want to play by the rules, and we have no idea how this happened. So maybe somebody did this in order to hamper us. Again, their opinion against ours, right? Maybe they thought that they could fly under the radar, make some quick money, and and then just things would go back to normal. But great observation from Danny Sullivan, where he identified this fact that there's all these hotel listings with their Google Plus Local accounts were hijacked. Again, moral of the story, here's again a perfect example of pitching out to prospects and your clients the importance of monitoring these things. And they're business owners. They don't have time to monitor all these things. But the web's getting so volatile that these are the kind of things that actually impact your, impact your accounts, impact your portfolio, impact your brand, impact so many things. It makes so much of an impact on you. So the idea is to constantly keep monitoring these profiles that you have, and just setting them up on a small little maintenance package where you can constantly be monitoring all these elements as far as their campaigns are concerned. And it's so important now that you need to monitor all these things because there's hackers that are out there trying to take advantage of any weak accounts passwords at all times. So it's even more so important that they engage the services of an internet marketer so as to protect their assets, their digital assets, and their properties. And so this is again a perfect example of utilizing that for your prospects and your clients and showing them what can potentially happen when things are not being monitored and the vulnerabilities that they can be exposed to. Another example that comes to my mind is Target. I'm pretty sure a lot of you are aware of what happened with the departmental store Target. I mean, their credit card and debit card base was recently hijacked, taken on by a hacker, and they basically lost close to 200 or I believe there's about 30 or 40 million credit cards and debit cards in terms of the information that was released out there, and that was compromised. So imagine the risk associated with that. Great. So there's another aspect that we wanted to cover in this webinar, and this is to do with how important data and cloud solutions are getting with all this information overload that's taking place in the digital space. So IBM's made a big play as far as the global cloud industry is concerned, and they've committed to investing 1.2 billion to expand their cloud services. So they want to basically compete with the likes of Amazon Web Services. Amazon offers cloud-based data centers, and as you might be aware, they were in the news recently, and Amazon even provides data centers for the CIA in the US. Like data centers utilizing cloud-based technology are definitely a play for the future, and IBM realizes that they've put in $1.2 billion to expand this network that they have. They're going to open up data centers in Washington, Hong Kong, London, Toronto, Japan, India, China, Canada, Mexico, and Dallas as of right now. And that's where this $1.2 billion is essentially going to be going. Now, why did we include this in our webinar, and how is it relevant for us? Here's another information as far as the IBM cloud services are concerned. So you can look at all their different cloud services that they have. It's ibm.com/cloud computing with their cloud infrastructure that they have that you can utilize for your clients. Now, coming back to the question, why did we incorporate this in this webinar? Well, here's a perfect example of how the internet marketers can build in a little bit of a recurring revenue stream from their clients. So we get recurring revenue from stuff like email marketing. We get some recurring revenue from hosting. We get some recurring revenue. In the future, information is going to be so important, because there's going to be so much information out there that the whole importance of cloud-based information access as well as backup is going to get just even more and more important. So IBM is seeing the future right now. They're not committing 1.2 billion just for nothing. I mean, they got the world's top researchers looking at the data and looking at how ballooning this industry is, and it's going to be getting even more crazy going forward with all this data that's coming out every single day. And as a matter of fact, we put out a slide, I believe, again, 2 or 3 webinars back, where we showcased how much information really is coming out every second on the internet. Like, for example, every second on the internet in Twitter, there's close to, I believe, 1 million tweets that are going out. And every second on Facebook, there's close to 1 million posts that are going out every second. So you can imagine the amount of data that's basically being pumped out by the users in today's day and age. And where is all this data going to be stored? It needs to be stored somewhere, and that's really where these cloud facilities come into play. So clients, whether big or small, this is a really good opportunity, something to look forward to in the future, where the clients can be set up on a sort of a cloud-based system, with a good company. IBM's obviously more so for like the Fortune 500s, the higher level clients, but even for the lower level clients, there's a lot of cloud services that are out there that you can set them up with, where their information sources, their systems, their resources, their email, all of that stuff is getting backed up in a sort of a cloud-based environment, and that information is accessible to them from anywhere at any time. The guy doesn't have his laptop, he's on vacation, he wants to access his information, he just logs into a website. It's all cloud-based. He can get the information that he's looking for, and then he can go ahead and start working on that information. And then what do you get as the IC? You get a nice little residual that's coming in on a monthly basis with all this information that you're helping him through this cloud service that you're providing and the backup that you're providing. So we definitely see the future as far as data storing is concerned, information is concerned. So something to think about, and that's really the thought that we wanted to leave with you guys, is something to think about in terms of adding to your arsenal of services that you provide, where you also tie up with a local cloud storage solutions provider and start building this as a little residual for your clients, because everyone's going to be needing this at some point in time. So you might as well just start offering this and build a nice little residual. And again, once you set a client up, you don't even have to do anything, because that service provider is going to take care of the client directly, and all you're getting is just a commission in the back on a monthly basis, or whatever the client's paying that company, or whatever deal you work out. But the whole idea was to kind of showcase the power of cloud-based services and the fact that they're only going to be increasing, and a big player like IBM is committing such a huge amount of money towards their cloud expansion. Excellent. So moving on to the tool of the week. So this week we have a pretty exciting tool lined up for you. It is called the 5-second test. So let's go there. Okay, so I'm pretty sure a lot of us have associated ourselves with web design, landing page design, some sort of web development, or some sort of mock-ups for clients' pages at some point in time, whether it was for conversion optimization, whether it was for pay-per-click advertising, whether it was for doing some A/B testing to try and see as to what pages were better, which ones were not. I'm pretty sure all of us have at some point in time come across the question that is, hey, how does this design look? Is this better than my existing design? What do I see as far as this design is concerned? What do the users see when this design is concerned? And you can't really set up usability groups. It's not very feasible for us, because it's tough to organize people in user groups and collectively organize 70-80 people and get them to take a 5-second test, because that's really what the attention span of a visitor is when they're coming to your website, 5 seconds. So it's very tough for you to kind of organize everybody in a room and then do this 5-second test. Hence this tool in this company called Usability Hub. They basically set up this very interesting website and this service that they provide, which is called the 5-second test. And you can sign up for free, and then they have plans. You can look at their plans and their pricing. But basically what they do is that when you sign up, and let's say you want to get a very quick sort of an idea as far as your mock-ups or your wireframes are concerned, and get a very quick feedback from a large cross-section of an audience, you come to this website. And here's what's going to happen. So what happens is that, and I'm actually going to take a 5-second test and I'm going to show you what it does. But basically what it does is that here's a sample report. So I'm going to click on a sample report. So when you sign in, you basically load up your test. So let's say, for example, this was one of the tests that was loaded up. Okay. Let me just take this here. Right. So this was a test that was loaded up. So this was the page that was being tested out by this company called Retail Me Not. So this was the page that they wanted to test and get the audience opinion for. So question number 1 they asked you was, so they'll show you this mock-up for 5 seconds, and then after they'll ask you a series of questions, and you got to answer these questions. What does this site do? And then they basically gave you different answers, right? And then as you can see, the number 1 response for the respondents was provides coupons. The second one was retails connections. Third response provides coupon codes. And it basically builds this for you. So that this way you know what people are seeing and what this mock-up is communicating. And is that what you wanted to communicate? The second question they asked was, what do you like the most about this design? And then again, people solicited back their response, right? And they responded, it was nice, not too much, split into clear sections, clean, crisp, right? So they're basically responding back. And then the third question that this particular test wanted to ask the people was, what do you least like about the design? And then that's what they got as feedback. Retail Me Not font, maybe a little clutter, too much writing, the odd fonts. And in a very short span of time, look, you basically had 89 respondents taking this test and replying back to you and giving you feedback as far as your mock-up was concerned. How powerful is that in in a very quick sort of a turnaround, a very quick sort of a time frame, you're getting 80 to 90 users, forming a sort of a test group and then responding back on your mockup. And all of this happens relatively quickly. So this is a sample report. So let's say we actually try a random test. So let's say, we go take a 5-second test. So let's see what happens. You're about to do a 5-second test. All you have to do is look at the interface for 5 seconds and remember as much as you can. Answer the questions that appear when the time is up. All right. So I'm going to hit start the test. And then I'm going to go show the image. Okay. So it's this one. AWC, wines, download wine list. Okay. So boom. I just saw it for 5 seconds and now they're going to ask me questions. What products and services are provided with this company? They're a wine retailer, right? So wine, they sell wines online, right? That's all I could really make out. So you submit that. Between 1 and 4, how trustworthy do you think the website was? I mean, I like the design. The first impression was pretty good, so I'm going to give it a 3. It was pretty good. I mean, it looked very creditable. What was the name of the company? That's a good question. I never really paid attention to that because I was actually looking more at the design. So I'm going to say not sure. So that means the logo wasn't that prominent for me to actually catch the name of the company. That's it. And then you go, they just send you a message. Hey, thanks. You made a designer very happy. There are 38 more tests that need your feedback. But here, you earned 1 karma point, right? Because you took a test. And then if you actually go in, you go to plans and pricing. And then that's where you can basically look at, how many credits you need to do a test, etc., etc. But the bottom line is that you can basically get a huge amount of feedback from a cross section of different audiences relatively quickly, and that's whole power of the 5-second test.com website. So a pretty cool website. I mean, for our higher end clients, when there's multiple mock-ups at stake, we definitely engage with this website and solicit and get feedback. So hopefully this is something that all of you can find use with as well. Great. I'm going to pass it on to Armando now. He's got a pretty cool slide on sales tips for the week. So Armando, all yours.
Thanks, Manish. Thanks for the information. Definitely wanted to spend some time with you today, very short, on a few simple tips helpful tips as well, that we sometimes forget when we're in our everyday hustle and bustle, and sometimes we get caught up on the everyday stress of dealing with different projects, presentations, proposals, etc. And just wanted to share with you 4 of them with you, where perhaps you can take a little bit from each one of them and take time to review what you're doing today to make it better. Okay. The number 1 tip that I have for you today is, have you ever wondered when you had a disastrous sales calls and wonder what your prospect thought about you or your business or your services, and you're scratching your head and really putting a lot of stress after that, and you think that the whole day probably went bad because you had 1 sales call. And according to researches done by sales teams with different companies, the consultants actually say that, whenever there's a disastrous call, it may not be as bad as you think. As a matter of fact, the only person that's so conscientious about it is you, that in many cases, in the studies that they've done, the customer, doesn't really even think it was a blown sales call. Maybe, for him it was not the right time, but you may thought that, because of your presentation and the way you weren't prepared for the conversation, for the questions he had, you blew it. But in reality, it just gives you a chance to better be prepared for next time and to rethink your strategy. Okay, so if you've had one of those recently, those type of sales calls where you thought you really blew it, you know what? They always recommend for you to rethink your strategy, and better prepare next time. And this means that you're not running the web scan the night before your presentation. You're not doing all of the reviews before your presentation. Take the time to prepare yourself, and that way you can have a higher probability of you closing the deal because you're better prepared. The other one is, again, sometimes you feel down because a customer has rejected you or a prospect has rejected you, and you're at the moment all emotional. You spent a lot of time in this proposal. You spent time, you invested time in learning about this prospect's account or project or problem that they have, and all of a sudden, you know what, they reject your proposal. Now, the thing here is that sometimes, our natural response is to just close the file, throw it and never look at it again. But just because a customer rejects you today doesn't mean that you can't reach out to them again in 3 or 6 months. You perhaps even lost that account to a competitor, but if you really made a connection with the client, it's not a bad idea for you to touch base with them in 6 months or even 3 months, right? You really will determine the best time. But when you look at it in retrospect, it could be a timing issue, it could be a budget issue that you lost that sales proposal, or perhaps even, it wasn't the right client for you today, and perhaps in 6 months, 9 months, 12 months. And I'm pretty sure all of you who have been in sales or who have been ICs for quite a while understand that, you've probably been pitching to a client for many months, and they've rejected you, and all of a sudden in the 12th month or 13th month or 18th month they call you back and they revive. So key here is, just because a customer rejects you doesn't mean you shouldn't be connecting with them, having them in an email marketing campaign, or just reaching out to them, nurturing that lead. Okay. Oh, the other thing is, if you have a bad sales call during the week, doesn't mean that the next sales call is going to be bad. Really here, sales consultants and professionals focus on the mental state of the person. That's more important than the outcome that could potentially happen. So it's very important that you keep your mental toughness up. Yes, one is down, but you know what? Who's next? And I know that some of you have heard that acronym, some will, some won't, so what, who's next? So, you want to kind of keep a very positive frame of work. Specifically now in the year, in January, it is an opportunity for many companies to open up their budgets, but then there are those clients that, January could be very tight for them, so you just got to keep on pushing forward, right? And the other thing is, if you've had a disastrous sales call, try to get advice from positive people, whether it be positive ICs in your network, friends, family, because you don't want that one disastrous sales call that you've had and you're sharing with people, and you have another person giving you, bad negative feedback, and it makes you feel even worse. So make sure that the worst thing you can do is to allow one disastrous call to really become contagious by bringing a lot of negative energy. And the last one that I wanted to share with you is a very important one, and we try to always get referrals from clients, and that's something that is very part of being an internet consultant, right? Networking and getting referrals. But one sales expert talks about referrals are actually a waste. What you want to actually gain are introductions from your existing clients. Now, what does that mean? Well, when you get a referral, usually, your existing client who you're working with, what they'll do is they'll say, look, you know what, why don't you call Bob at Jim's Auto Repair? I know Bob, and, you can tell him that I refer you to him, and hopefully, you can get a meeting with them. And although it's a good intention from your existing client, a better intention would be if you could do the following. A would be, for example, send an email to the referral, with an introduction of what you can do and what you've done for his service. Now, you may say, well, you know what, my existing client doesn't have the time to do it. He's not going to write it. So why don't you write it? It's a standard, email of the services you've done, and even include his business as a case study, right? And basically, you have your client read it, and all they have to do is copy paste it and send it via email. And obviously, I mean, if you can get this in a letter format, a letter of introduction is even better. But nowadays it's digital, so you may actually get an email introduction to be even better. But make sure that when that email introduction happens, that you're copied on that email, so that way, it allows you, it gives you that opportunity for, or opens the door for you to connect with the prospect. Another one would be a phone call. If you're sitting there with your client doing, in your monthly meetings with them, and he's very happy with you, you start talking about perhaps referrals, right away. If possible, get him to call his business buddy, or this prospect, and a phone call is actually stronger than an email or a letter. So it really guarantees an appointment, because he's right there, he's on the phone, and you know what? It really makes that connection even stronger. Okay, and there are some savvy sales professionals that even go a step further, where they actually arrange a lunch meeting with your client, the prospect, and yourself. Right, and this is a very good way of you really getting to know the prospect, and having the prospect be a bit more relaxed in an environment where there's a client. So it's really it's a non-sales approach. It's more building relationship. But if you are very prepared and you set it up properly, I mean, that lunch investment that you're doing there, it could turn into a new client. So this is a good way for you to turn referrals into real referrals. So remember, don't just ask for a telephone number or an email. A letter or email of introduction is better. A phone call is also good, but a lunch meeting is even better. So these are things that I thought I would share with you today as we're starting the year, on how many things you can, if you're looking at building your sales pipeline, what are the things that you could be doing to improve on that. Okay, so those are the tips for this week. Next week we'll be back with one or two exciting case studies, and I look forward to touching base again. Vinish?
Thanks, Armando. That's a lot of good information. Thank you so much for that. And great. So moving on to our Q&A session. So there's a few different questions that we have. So I'm going to start taking them. Do apologize for that slideshow issue that we had in the beginning. My screen was paused, which is why we weren't really able to see the screen, but we fixed that. So Yuka. Hello to Yuka, and there's a question that he had with regards to, are Yahoo and Bing now combined? Yahoo doesn't have its own search engine anymore. Well, technically it does, Yuka, because what Yahoo's basically done is that the PPC ads for Yahoo's network are being powered by Bing. So there's only the PPC arrangement that Yahoo and Bing have together right now. Yahoo does kind of like have its own search engine right now. It's got a 10% market share, as you're seeing in the slide deck. Yahoo and Bing have basically entered into a PPC arrangement. Will they enhance an arrangement and potentially even consolidate both the search engines? In my opinion, they should, because Google at 67% seems unstoppable. But them together, now you're basically looking at a second competitor, because them together, you're looking at about a 23% search share. But then again, you're looking at two powerhouses, Yahoo and Bing, pretty strong-headed leaders there, and trying to get them together is going to be a pretty interesting situation. Howard has a question there. Says, I have a client that has an external blog site that he owns, and we have been using a blog writer to write weekly posts about his services with a link back to his website. Do we now need to change the strategy of using an external blog site to promote his brand visibility? Howard, it really depends on how good that external website is. If it's got a good credibility, if it's got a good domain authority, there's no harm in putting out postings and then linking back to your client's website. But again, you just really have to see the amount of value that you're deriving out of this. Are you getting a lot of referrals in terms of traffic from that blog onto your client's website from that external blog? Is that just an external blog that has been set up by you and is just being used to piggyback links off to your client's website? And how powerful is this external blog? I mean, if it's not that powerful, if it's not ranking in itself, then you're not really getting much of a benefit with this activity, Howard. You'd be much better off utilizing that same content that you're writing through this external blog and put it actually on the client's website, because now you're getting more traction. You're building more pages for your client's website. And here's another key. Neil Patel, the guy that owns Chris Metrics, I mean, he puts out some really good postings out there. And I was actually reading a post last week where he talked about in-depth articles. If you want to really write content, for your website and write good content for your website, what he's noticed is that there is a definitive trend, especially for the tougher genres to rank for. Neil Patel says that in their research that they've done, articles are an average length of 2,000 words that are basically ranking in the top 10 for Google. Now this is for competitive competitive niches, competitive verticals. If your vertical is not that competitive, you can still have a shorter article that's actually ranking well, which is doing well, provided you do, all the on-page optimization and build enough links for it, for that particular article. But the bottom line is invest in writing a long content, good content. So and he talks about the fact that there's evidence that Google's giving preference to 2,000 words plus of content when it comes to ranking articles on their top 10 pages. So I'd say in this instance, however, it'd be much better if the writing strategy is incorporated for the client's own website, and you actually put the content on their own website and then push it out there through social media and stuff and try and get link backs. Okay, Felipe has a question. Has anybody ever sued Google for arbitrarily penalizing them in their ranking when Google's real rules are in fact secret and therefore arbitrary? A very good question, Felipe, but the only challenge is that, it's their search engine, technically. So, they never claim to either put the algorithm out there or claim that, the so-and-so sites are going to be ranked #1 because of this algorithm. It's their search engine. So technically, from an SEO perspective, they can go ahead and do anything. Now, on the hindsight, they're getting into a lot of trouble because of privacy issues. Google in Canada, as a matter of fact, the Canada Privacy Commissioner, I was reading in an article yesterday, has slapped a huge lawsuit on Google for infringing on citizens' privacy rights, and which is one of the reasons why they moved to the whole secure search and all that stuff. Same thing in Europe, I believe. There, again, there's a lot of privacy lawsuits, and I believe in Germany there's a big privacy lawsuit that Google's facing over there. So you can't technically sue Google for a search engine algorithm because that's their own property. They can do whatever the heck they want because they own it, and they don't owe anything to any of the sites. The sites don't pay for anything organic. They only pay for PPC. So technically they can do whatever they want, but in terms of privacy issues, they're getting into a lot of trouble. Mark has a question. How can I tell if a prospect's Google Plus account listing has been claimed or not? Mark, there's a certain process for this. You can actually click on when you add the listing, you can see if it's verified or not. And if it's not verified, then it actually says over there, are you the owner? You can click on it, and then you can basically go through the whole verification process. But just shoot us an email, and then we'll actually give you screenshots of the whole process, and we'll probably even just do a demo for you over the phone so you have a better understanding. Just email Armando, A-R-M-A-N-D-O, Armando at WSILM.com or info@WSILM.com, whatever you prefer. Rabia has a question. Do we now have cloud solution providers in the marketplace? That's a really good question, Rabia. I'd probably shoot that over to Home Office. I know that they've implemented K2 as an information-based platform for the ICs and the suppliers, but I believe there's not really a cloud provider that is officially supported by WSI. But this would be a very good question for Home Office to ask for them, because again, this is this is a great service. It definitely is the future. Mark. Oh, actually, Brian mentioned NewTek. So NewTek apparently has a cloud hosting solution. So I would NewTek is a company owned by Christopher. So great guy. So I would definitely get in touch with NewTek. But again, I would also shoot an email to Home Office to see who the official suppliers are for their cloud solution. Mark has another question. How do I begin to resell a cloud service? Again, Mark, that's a question for the Home Office. But again, I think it also depends on the requirements. There's a lot of major players out there as far as cloud solutions are concerned, and you can always engage into a tie-up with a cloud solutions provider yourself and just work out an affiliate plan with them or a commissions plan with them and just start reselling their services. But again, I'd shoot an email to Home Office just to make sure everything's within the realm in terms of doing this. Great, Brian just sent out a message. Got to leave for another meeting. Thanks for attending this, Brian. Great. We'll just see if there's any other questions that are popping up. Okay, No other questions? Well, thank you very much once again for all the ICs for attending our webinar today. Once again, if you do have any email marketing, lead generation needs, please get in touch with us, and we can fill you in as far as the information is concerned. And if you have any other information or any other questions that you have, please feel free to shoot us an email, info@wsilm.com or mando@wsilm.com, and we definitely love to help you out. Excellent. Thanks, everyone. Have a great week. Bye-bye.